It's like water and sugar. And when you mix water and sugar together, then you get rus, you get taste. So if we can chant and we can think at the same time of Krishna's pastimes or the pastimes of his pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Gaurkishore, then this creates rus. And this is very good. But when we think of the pastimes like you're thinking of Prabhupada, what you have to try to think of is his bhav. Now his bhav is what? His emotion or his mood. For instance, Prabhupada going to the West. You have to think, an old man, going on a difficult journey, heart attack. You have to try to think of like his mood. Just move the chair a little. Move it up. Push it back. Just put it in the corner there more. No. Put the chair in the corner. Haribo, you're staying here now, Srila?
No, Guru Maharaj, sister is in hospital.
Oh,
Last Tuesday.
Come here.
Come there.
Very good. But isn't Kamala coming to stay next week or something? Where's she doing backup? So, I was explaining. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is explaining this point. It's a very important point. And he's explaining this in Rajvatma Chandrika, which of course you've never heard of. And most devotees have never heard of it either. So I explain again that water and sugar by themselves, there's no rus. Now what does rus mean? Rus means flavor or taste. So water and sugar, there's nothing. But you mix water and sugar together and you get some rus, some taste. Rasgula, they soak it in sugar water. So chanting the Lord's holy name on the one hand and thinking of the Lord's pastimes on the other hand, you mix this together and you get rus. But it is not an easy thing to do. Not easy at all. But not only chanting the Lord's name and thinking of Krishna's pastimes, but also thinking of the pastimes of the pure devotees. Now when we talk about pure devotees, basically we're talking about the residents of Vrindavan. But also you can meditate on Srila Prabhupada's pastimes, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Gaurkishore, Srila Bhaktanath Thakur, devotees of these categories. You can also. So you think of what they have done, or their mood, or what they have said, and same time you chant. You mix this together is very nice. But you have to think of high-class devotee. So when we think of Prabhupada, like you were saying, you were thinking of Prabhupada. But what is it we think of? We try to think of his mood. It's the bhav, or the mood. This is what we want to understand. Prabhupada's bhav, which means his mood. So, Prabhupada's mood, he left India, he's on a ship, he's traveling, and what does he have? Heart attack. But still he's carrying on. And then he goes to America, and he's trying to preach. So what is his mood? Can you tell me? What do you think is his mood? Preaching mood, but now one bit deeper than that. Love of God. Yeah. Analyte service to his. Yeah, but even just try to think now. He's on the boat. He has heart attack. He's in New York. He's preaching. No one is coming.
Pleasing his guru.
Pleasing his guru, yeah.
Vrindavan mood.
It's difficult to have Vrindavan mood in New York. Yes, deep down inside, yes.
Passionate.
Yes, I think, isn't it? I think that's the mood that would come most, compassion. Oh, you were also in hospital, Bala, weren't you? Sorry about this. You all right now? Didn't you go in hospital for a while?
8 days.
8 days, huh? You didn't? Where, Cons?
No. Srila.
Oh,
Sorry.
I would have come and visited you.
No.
So, compassion, that's actually the mood. I mean, those other moods are also there, I agree. Serving Guru, Vrindavan mood, that's also there, yes. But I think especially what springs to mind is like compassion. So now you're chanting and you're thinking of Prabhupada. So then you try to think of the compassion that he has, or the compassion that he was manifesting in order to leave Vrindavan and just come to this ugly West and preach as he did. So as you're chanting, you're thinking of that compassion. Now that's good. That's very good. All right? But the best mood to chant in, the best mood to chant to chant the holy name in, what is the best mood? The topmost mood. What is the most favorable mood in which to chant? Now we should know this because every day we're chanting for at least 2 hours, so we should know that. What is the most favorable mood to chant the holy name of the Lord in?
In humble state.
Yes, but I'm looking for something more specific than that.
Humility.
Yes, yeah, humility and yeah. But I'm looking for something else. It's
Desperation.
yeah, but you haven't said the exact word I'm looking for. Desperation,
Greed.
greed. Yes, of course, greed. We must have that. But there will only be greed if there is something else. And yeah, and there will only be greed and enthusiasm if there is something else. You only have greed for something if you experience something about it. What is it you must first experience before you experience separation? Isn't it? If there's no separation, there's no greed. So the most favorable mood in which to chant the Lord's holy name is in a mood of vipralamba or separation, thinking, when will I really be able to attain Krishna's lotus feet? When will I be able to really please Guru? When will I be able to get entrance into Vrindavan? When will I be able to chant more purely? When will I be able to understand more about Krishna's pastimes? When will I get darshan of Mahaprabhu? It's his appearance day. When will I get darshan of Krishna? When will Krishna actually appear to me? When will Mahaprabhu actually appear in my heart? When will I see him? He is golden, with beautiful lotus eyes, and very kind and merciful. When will he actually appear? When? Kabe habe bole seidinama. Kabe habe. When will that day come? When will it come? When will it come? So this is actually in a mood of separation. So this is very, very favorable if you can have this mood. Immediately if you have that mood, there will be greed, there will be enthusiasm, there will be humility. All that comes, definitely. So this is very favorable. And we should try to cultivate this in our chanting. So to chant and to think of Krishna's pastimes, or to think of pastimes and the activities of devotees of the category of Srila Prabhupada, this is very favorable. This is very, very good. So we should try to practice this. Just like I gave the example, Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he left, he went to Vrindavan in the 1860s, and he took initiation from Bhagavad Das Babaji Maharaj, and he wandered around Vrindavan for 30 years. For 30 years. Every day chanting 2 lakhs, which is 128 rounds. So what was his mood? Yeah, I think it was, don't you? Wandering around Vrindavan. I think his mood was intense separation. He wasn't preaching. He wasn't exhibiting compassion because he wasn't preaching. But his mood was separation to the nth degree. Otherwise, how can you do 128 rounds? And how can you wander around Vrindavan for 30 years? It has to be very intense separation. So then when you're chanting, you think of Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj, you think of his mood, and then that mood can come to you a little bit. By following in the footsteps of these persons and thinking of their mood, then their mood also can come to you. So this is very good for our chanting, if we can do this. And it may not be so easy, but if we can do this, is very good. But generally when we chant, our mind takes us, Manarata. Rata means chariot, the chariot of the mind. We get on the chariot and the mind starts going all over the Brahmanda. Brahmanda means universe. Starts off where we were born, and we go through it's all through the Japa period. We go through our childhood and all the things we missed out when we were kids that we should have done but we didn't do, but now we're doing in our mind now instead. And then all the things that we want to do in the future. And this is the mind. And then the mind will drag us to think of our family members, especially if they're ill. Then we start thinking of our family members, our mother, our father, our brother, our sister, so forth. So these are all like disturbances. All these all come as disturbances. And then in our mind so many duties will come. Oh, now I have to do this. Cook. Now I have to do this. Work. Now I have to do this. Look after family. So many disturbances like this will come. And then if those don't come, then lust will come in the mind. Pride will come in the mind. Anger will come in the mind. Greed. Arrogance. So these are all of these are all like enemies. All we want to do is just chant and think of Krishna and his pastimes and the instructions of the pure devotees. But instead all these other thoughts come into our mind. And the very thing that we want won't come, and the very thing that we don't want comes. This is our position. So this is our distress. This is our misfortune. This is our problem. But as we continue to practice and increase our greed, then it will come more. Just like if you're very, very hungry, then what are you thinking about? Yeah, if you're very, very hungry, then you're just thinking of prasadam. If you're extremely hungry, let's say you're extremely thirsty, then you're not interested in anything else. Even someone comes with a lot of money, even it's time to sleep. But if you're very, very thirsty and you can't get water, then that's all you want. Nothing could stop you thinking of that water. You know, just like a lusty man is thinking of a woman, or a woman is thinking of a man. So they become infatuated by each other, and even sleep doesn't come because they're just thinking of each other. They're infatuated. So as when we can develop some greed for chanting Krishna's name and become infatuated by the holy name, then when these disturbances come, then it doesn't affect us. We still carry on. But then our greed is so thin, so practically you can't even see it. Then the slightest disturbance comes, the slightest headache, the slightest, little thing comes, and it breaks our chanting. Little bit tired, little headache. Someone comes with a little comment about little prajalpa, a little bit of nonsense talk, and immediately we're interested. Put down the chanting, and we're more listening to this. So for us, the slightest disturbance, some family member is ill, then our whole meditation is just thinking of that person. Someone embarrasses us, then in our mind comes pride, and we can't chant peacefully. That's because our greed is not very strong. But as it becomes stronger, then these things won't affect us so much and won't disturb us so much. So one has to pray to Krishna for this. One has to pray to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One has to pray to Lord Nityananda, that one can get this type of taste. This is what we want. Much bigger taste. So we have to practice, definitely. Practice and practice and practice and continue practicing. So any questions? So it's very nice to think of Prabhupada when you chant. It's very nice indeed, if you can do that. In your mind you have some conception of Prabhupada, and think of his mood in preaching, and possibly some of his instructions. But better than his instructions is his mood. That's better. You can think of someone's instructions without getting their mood. Do you understand? I can say something and you may understand what I say, but you may not know my mood. And what's more important? The mood is more important. So if you can try to understand Prabhupada's mood, then you gain so much more than just his instruction. How?
How would you actually develop the real mood? Would it be the actual thing, or would it be just some concoction in your mind?
How would you understand the mood of a pure devotee?
To develop that mood.
Come here. You have to be very perceptive and pray to try to understand. Krishna consciousness is, very. We have to use our intelligence. Buddhi yoga. We're not walking around like a zombie. So it's very important we try to understand mood. Definitely one's mood. When the gopis come to see Krishna or to see Radharani, many times Radharani, she won't even say anything at all. She won't say anything at all. Simply by a gesture, simply by some movement of the eye, they will understand her mood. So you have to be very perceptive. And this is actually much more you see, if you say something straight out, it's not so sweet. But if you say it indirectly, it's much sweeter. Do you know that? Just like if I say that I know a devotee, if I say that I know a devotee, he's a sannyasi, he comes every Christmas, he does the Rath Yatra, he sings very nicely, he's very devoted to his spiritual master, and he preaches a lot in the communist countries. Now I haven't said who it is, but you know who it is. So it's sweeter than if you actually say who it is. By inferring, it's sweeter. This is more rasic, it's described. So it says more to describe the person without saying the person. Another example is that if a woman, if her head is covered like with a very thin veil, and you can sort of see, but you can't see, it's more attractive than if you can see directly. It's more alluring and more attractive. So one has to sort of understand the mood and the bhav. So the residents of Vrindavan, like when the gopis come and they see Radharani, then she won't give direct instruction, but sometimes just by hint or gesture or slight movement of the eye, then they will understand what is being said. They will understand. So, and they will understand Radharani's mood, and then they will fit into that mood, complement that mood. The same with Ramananda Roy, Sarup Damodar, when they saw Mahaprabhu, they would understand Mahaprabhu's mood, and then they would sing appropriate songs from Gita Govinda, Govinda Lilamrita, Krishna Karanamrita. They would sing. They would understand Mahaprabhu's mood without even Mahaprabhu saying anything, and then they would sing certain songs and so forth to complement his mood. So what we want to understand is Prabhupada's mood. So one has to be very perceptive to understand that. And then when we chant, we think of that mood is very nice. And then our chanting can become a lot sweeter. Just like now is Gopanim. So Gopanim is appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent how many years on this planet? Huh? Can anyone answer? How long? 48 years. 24 years he spent in Mayapur as Grihastra. 6 years he spent traveling around. What? Where? South Africa? Phoenix? Where? Huh? America? India. Yes. 6 years he spent traveling around India. And the balance 18 years, where did he stay? Huh? Jagannath Puri, Nilachala. And he stayed in one place called Gambhira. So what was Mahaprabhu's mood for 18 years in Jagannath Puri and Gambhira? What was his mood? Separation. Yes. Intense separation. And so much separation for Radha and Krishna. So much separation for Krishna. Not Radharani. So much because he is Radharani. He came to experience Radha Bhav. Bhav means mood, the mood of Radharani. That was Mahaprabhu's purpose in coming, to experience Radha Bhav. So his separation was so intense, the world has never seen. Scriptures have never even heard about. There's no information in the scriptures to the extent of Mahaprabhu's ecstasy in that 18 years. We know that sometimes in feeling moods of ecstasy, blood would actually come from the pores of his skin. Blood would actually come. His body would elongate, and the joints of his body would open up, and there would be just skin joining the bones. His body would extend, his hands would extend. On one occasion, when he was with some cows on the perimeter of the Jagannath Puri temple. He fell unconscious among some cows. His body, his hands and legs went into his body. They went into his body. So this we've never even heard of. We've never even read about this. It's just because this is Mahabhav. So Mahaprabhu exhibited intense symptoms of separation. So when you're chanting Krishna's name and you're thinking of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is what you think. Mahaprabhu, goldenish, in your mind you see his form, Gambhira, Jagannath Puri, experiencing so much separation for Krishna. He is in the mood of Radharani. Mahaprabhu came to teach, he came to experience Radha Bhav, but he came to teach Radha Dasi Bhav. Now you understand the difference? What is Radha Bhav? The mood of Radharani. But can a jiva attain the mood of Radharani? No. We cannot attain that. It's ridiculous to even try. Radharani is Radharani. She's in a different category. How can a jiva ever do that? Jiva can't do that. But Radha Dasi Bhav, yes, which means servant of Radharani, the mood of being the servant of Radharani. So that's what Mahaprabhu taught. But he came to experience Radha Bhav. Big difference. There's a big difference. Generally, to public we will just say that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna and he taught the Yugadam, which is Hare Krishna. But actually, much deeper and more important understanding is that he came to experience Radha Bhav and he came to teach Radha Dasi Bhav. And all of his followers, Rupa Goswami, the 6 Goswamis, all of them are in that mood of Radha Dasi Bhav, and the servant of Radharani. All of them. So then when we're chanting, we think of Mahaprabhu in Gambhira. So wonderful. We think of Rupa Goswami. Or we can think of, if we're fortunate enough, we can think of Radhanath Das Goswami living at Radha Kund. And so what is Radhanath Das Goswami thinking? Same thing, separation. So it is very good to think of these things when we chant. Very favorable indeed. But we have to be very fortunate and lucky to be able to do this. Extremely fortunate. Very, very fortunate. And if one is able to think of Mahaprabhu when chanting and his mood, then we can understand you are getting mercy from Mahaprabhu. If you're able to think of Prabhupada when he's in his mood of compassion preaching in the West, then it's understood you're getting his mercy at that time. If you're able to think of Radhanath Das Goswami at Radhakund when chanting, then you're getting his mercy at that time. He's giving you some mercy. These are not dead persons. They're aprakat, they're unmanifest, but they're there, they exist. And by their mercy we can think of them. So we want their mercy, and we want to be able to think of them. So when chanting is not it's what we just try to do. First step is, when we chant, we should not think of our mundane things. Then coming a little higher, we should just try to think of the holy name. But coming higher than that, we should try to think of Krishna and his pure devotees and their activities. And even higher than that, we just think of Radha and Krishna and their pastimes in Vrindavan. So there's different gradations. Generally, we will say, don't think of anything, just try to think of the holy name. But that's not, but actually a deeper answer is to think of Krishna, Mahaprabhu, Radharani and their pastime. Haribol, you're going now? Sure. When are you going to come again?
Sunday.
I'll see you then. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? But now to perfect this chanting can take so many years, can take a lifetime. It can take years and years and years and years and years. But we have to try and perfect this chanting. You know, what I'm talking about by this description of chanting is Sudanam. It's a very high type of chanting. But we have to try. And carry on practicing and practicing and try and try and try. And the reason we can't do this now is because of material desires. These anarthas. Because we have material desires and material attachments, in other words, anarthas. This stops us from thinking of Krishna all the time, and our mind becomes distracted. Anarthas means material desires. And the person who's more peaceful in their chanting and can think more of Krishna, then they have less anarthas. That's what it means. So these anarthas we have to try to reduce. And the way to do it is to carry on chanting. Chetodapanamarjanam, Bhavan Nivagni Nivapanam, Sharakaiva Chandraka. By constant chanting, then this cleans the mirror of the heart. So we just have to continue to chant. Any other questions? Any questions, Ashwin? So it's because of these material desires that one day we can get up early in the morning and suddenly we're so enlivened. And we start chanting and the rounds just are flowing. And then we're not even looking at the counter beats. And we're not looking at our watch. And no laya, no sleep. And it's just flowing, 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 flowing. And before we know it, it's 7 o'clock. Greeting the deities. And you don't know how it came, and then the next day you get up and you think, wow, it was good yesterday, I'm looking forward to today, this is going to be great. You know, they always said spiritual life was nice, I mean, it really flowed. So you get up in the morning and it's really tough to get up. And it takes like 5 minutes just to make it to the bathroom. You know, and then you take bath and you almost fall asleep underneath the shower. And then you start walking towards the temple room and it's like you have feet with lead on. And then you offer your obeisances and you can't get up. Huh? You just can't get up. And then you get up and you start stars. It happened to me many times. Start seeing stars. And then you have to sort of sit down, you know. So then, you know, you get your hand, and suddenly your hand is very heavy. Your hand has become heavy. So how come my hand's it's the same hand. There's nothing on it. It's the same hand, but all of a sudden it becomes heavy. Anyhow, you put it in your bean bag, and then your mouth goes heavy. You know, and you can't even move it. It just is not flowing. There's something is in there. It just won't go up and down. So you try chanting, and before even one round, you're falling asleep. So then you have to get up. So then you like dragging your feet around, literally, just trying to stay awake. And your whole japa period is simply an attempt to stay awake. That's all. But to speak of, you know, thinking of Krishna, you're just trying to stay awake. You know, and you're just counting the moments when prasadam, when something else can come, when you can do something else. And you're thinking maybe you should go and take some extra rest. You know, because you feel so tired. And you're thinking about, you know, so many other things other than Krishna. And then the next day, or 3 days later, suddenly, it comes again. And you feel enlivened. And you're even thinking about chanting extra rounds. This thought comes, well, maybe I should even chant extra rounds. And suddenly you start chanting some extra rounds. So sometimes enthusiastic, and sometimes not so enthusiastic. So what is this? What is this called?
It's one of the 16th, isn't it?
Yeah, it's called Jnana Tarela. It's thick and thin. Thick and thin. Huh? Enthusiastic, lethargic. Sporadic endeavor. It's called sporadic endeavor. So this is due to anarthas. It's due to aparad and it's due to anarthas. You know? But as these anarthas go, then things will become easier and easier in our spiritual life. We can especially see this in our hearing and chanting in the morning. You know, during your service, during the daytime, you don't see it so much. Like you have service, you're doing backup or sankirtan or office work. So it's sort of easier to do. Because you can sort of throw in the mode of passion a little bit. Other things are also there. But when you're chanting, then it's because it's such a pure activity, if there is some contamination, then it becomes a lot more obvious. A lot more obvious. So especially in our chanting, we can see practically how we are making advancement. Are we developing some little taste? So even though on some days it may be so hard and we may have to force ourselves like anything, still we must not give in. We must never give in, and we have to continue to force ourselves. And for us it means doing 16 rounds. We must do. We must do. The mind may be screaming and saying so many other things, give up chanting and sleep and this, but we have a quota we have to do, and that we have to do every day. And as we continue to practice, then it will become easier and easier. It may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, it may take 20 years, it can take a lifetime, but it'll come easier. It depends how serious we are, how enthusiastic we are, and whether we get good association or not. But then it will come easier. And then eventually, like Jagannath, like Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj, you can do 128 rounds a day. Or like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, 192 rounds a day. You will be able to do that. But that will be in a very elevated stage. So we have to practice. And what is the best way to get material desires out of our heart? Anarthas, right? Anarthas are material desires. So the stage of anartha nivritti is the stage where we're getting these material desires out of our heart. So what is the best way to get out material desires? Yeah. Pracha, preaching. So what are we doing? This is a preaching movement. Everything is for preaching. So this is the best way to get them out, by preaching. It's like cutting the jungle. Say you have some land and it's in the jungle and you want to sow some seeds. So what do you have to do first? Cut the weeds, cut the trees. You have to cut the jungle and then clean the soil, then plant. So pracha is like this, cutting the jungle, cutting out these material desires. Cutting. So we're preaching, and we will always continue to preach. So that's why we're doing it. Now Prabhupada's preaching was not because of that. Why was his preaching? That the compassion of an Uttama Bhagavad, a Maha Bhagavad Siddha Purush, that his compassion. He didn't have to preach at all. He was already in the spiritual world. He didn't have to preach at all. He didn't have to preach at all. Nothing. But simply out of compassion, he decided. Now we're not preaching out of we're preaching because we have to preach, because we've got to get these material desires out of our heart. So our preaching is a little different. But an advanced devotee, they're preaching simply out of compassion. They don't actually have to preach, but they're doing it to help the conditioned souls. That's why they're doing it. So, any questions? So tomorrow when you chant in the car park, amongst the cars, in the temple room, you're going to try to think of Mahaprabhu's pastime. All you have to do is get Chaitanya Charitamrita to read one of his pastimes. You meditate on that pastime. Some pastime is Srila Prabhupada. Think like this, something you've read, some pastime. Or just try to think of Prabhupada's mood, Mahaprabhu's mood. This is the real thing, to think of their mood. While you're chanting is very good. It's very nice. I gave the example many times that in a funeral, someone has died. So the family members are there. Say the husband has died. So the wife is there, she's crying. She's pitifully lamenting, bitterly weeping. Tears are coming. She's feeling lost and hopeless. Her husband has died. And tears are coming and she's crying. And other people go to the funeral and they hear her cry and they also start to cry. They don't really, when they went to the funeral, they didn't have that mood. But they also started to cry. Isn't it? The ladies more than the men know about this. So this is our mood also, that if we can think of Mahaprabhu's mood in Gambhira, if we can think of Prabhupada's compassionate mood to preach, if we can think of Radharani's mood in separation from Krishna, then that can also come to us. That's why we think of their mood. If we think of Lord Nityananda's mood, of how kind he was to save Jaga and Madai, then that mood can also come to us. In the same way that if you go to a funeral and a lady is crying, then you will also start to cry. And you may not even know the person, but you can't help it. So this is why in our chanting and meditation we think of the moods of these great devotees. And that's why Prabhupada has given us the Krishna book. So we can read about Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd boys, the gopis, and we can read about their moods. That's why. So we can read about their mood. And the Goswamis have analyzed in great detail their moods. And their moods, I mean, they're very deep, and they've been analyzed in great detail. Like I was explaining Mahaprabhu's mood in Gambhira. What was his mood? Vipralambha separation. But I mean, for those persons who want to read about it, there are 10 symptoms. Now you can meditate on each one by one. First one is Chinta. Mahaprabhu is exhibiting the mood of Radharani, so he's in complete anxiety. Jagara, wakefulness. Unmad, madness. Malini Gata, uncleanliness. Vyadi, he's in a disease-like condition. Moha, he's in complete illusion, but it's Yogamaya. Mrityu, sometimes Mahaprabhu would appear even like he was dead. Mrityu means death. He actually appeared like he was dead out of separation, and they'd have to put a piece of cotton wool underneath his nose, and very slightly it would move, and they could understand there was some life. But actually it was a very deep symptom of Mahabhav. So, one can meditate on these different moods. That's a different mood. The mood of the chicken. Chinta, anxiety. Jagara, wakefulness. Uvega, mental agitation. Tanava, thinness. Malini Angata, uncleanliness. Pralapo means prajalpa, mad talking, but madly talking about Krishna. When we do prajalpa, it's what? Nonsense talk. But Mahaprabhu's prajalpa is chitjalpa, madly talking about Radha and Krishna. We're madly talking about Krishna because he's in the mood of Radharani. Like Radharani talking to the bumblebee. It's called Brahma Gita. Radharani talking to a bumblebee. I mean, that's crazy, talking to a bumblebee. Radharani's thinking this bumblebee is a messenger of Krishna. So Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri is thinking the same thing. He's talking like that. In the mood of Radharani, he's talking in a mad way. So this is called pralapo. And vyadi, diseased. He appears to have disease. Unmad. Unmad means mad. But not mad like some loony in the material world, but mad in love of God. Sometimes devotees become a little mad. Sometimes Prabhupada said we have to be a little mad to do what we do. So our madness is little, isn't it? We do mad things like get up at 2 a.m, and isn't it 1:30 sometimes? And we go around mumbling all the time. And sometimes we fast on certain days. I mean, generally most people, most respectable people sleep at about 1 a.m. But we get up at 1 a.m, 1:30, 2 a.m. So definitely we're a little mad. We go on the streets and we distribute books. And then in a big kirtan, what do we do in a kirtan? We jump up and down like mad people. Isn't it? And we start shouting, Haribo, Haribo. It's the same thing, we're shouting again and again and again. It's like we go a little mad. But our madness is small. But Mahaprabhu's madness is unmad. So when we say, there's so many divisions, and what I'm trying to explain is that these are different moods. So we should try to think of this. This is very nice to think of, especially when we chant our rounds. There was one story that Krishna decided one day that he would proclaim himself the king of Vrindavan. So he told the cowherd boys, build a throne for me, and I will sit there, and you can proclaim to all the citizens of Vrindavan that I am their new king. So Sridharma, Sudama, and the cowherd boys, Madhamangal, they built him a throne, but out of flowers and creepers. This is how it is in Vrindavan. Everything is out of flowers and creepers and jasmine and Bailey, Chameli. So then they sat Krishna there, and then Krishna told Madhamangal, you go and you proclaim to everyone that I am the new sovereign king of Vrindavan. I am the new king. So Madhamangal, he went and he started telling everyone. So then of course he came to the gopis and he said, yes, Krishna is the king of Vrindavan and he's sitting on his throne in one kunj over here, and I think you better behave yourselves, and he's over there. So the gopis said, well, we don't care for this king. We have a queen, and our queen is much more powerful than your king, and our queen is Radharani, and you'll see she's more powerful. Not only she's more powerful, she's more influential. So then they made a throne for Radharani. Beautiful throne out of flowers, lotus petals, and they sat Radharani on there. Lalita and Vishaka told Radharani, now you must have the mood of being queen. You must be in the queen mood. Because Radharani's not in that mood, but they said, you must be in the queen mood. So she sat there being in the queen mood. This is almost like Lakshmi Narayan. It's almost like in Lakshmi's mood. So then Madhamangal was still around, and he was still saying, no, Krishna is the king, he's over here. So there were thousands and thousands of Sakhi gopis. Thousands. Not one or two, thousands and thousands. And Madhamangal was looking around, he's seeing so many, and he got a little worried, he started to run away. But they grabbed hold of him. And they tied his hands with a flower garland. And they sent him back to Krishna. And they said, you go and tell this Krishna who's the real queen of Vrindavan, Radharani. So they sent Madhamangal back. So Madhamangal, with his hands tied, very embarrassed, they made fun of him. And he's Brahmin. You can't make fun of a Brahmin. So they made fun of Madhamangal. So Madhamangal went back to Krishna. And Krishna looked at him and said, what happened to you? He got tied up. And he said, these Sakhis, there's so many of them, thousands of them, and they embarrass me. I'm Brahmin, Madhamangal. They embarrass me, and they made me the butt of so many jokes, and they tied me with this flower garland. And then Madhamangal told Krishna, actually, it seems like this Radharani, she's very powerful, and I think you should just surrender to her, because she's very powerful. So many thousands of Sakhis. So Krishna said, I feel very sorry for your pitiable condition that you are tied like this, and I think I should take your advice. I think I should actually surrender to Radharani, because you always give me good advice. So then Krishna went with Madhamangal and went to see Radharani and went to surrender to the Queen of Vrindavan, Radharani. So he surrendered. Then Radharani also wanted to give up her mood of being queen. But Lalita said, no, you stay as queen. And they put Krishna next. And they sat Krishna next to Radharani. And then the Sakhis, they went to Madhamangal and they thanked Madhamangal because he brought Krishna. So how did they thank him? Speak. How will you thank Madhamangal? No, not Gulab Jamun. Ladu. Remember, he likes Ladu? Madam Mangal loves Ladu. So they gave him one wonderful Ladu. And Madam Mangal ate it. And he said, oh, that was so nice. He said, you have embarrassed me. And you have offended me. And if you give me 100,000 pieces of Ladu just like this, then I will forgive you. But it has to be 100,000 and exactly like this piece. And then I will forgive you. So then the gopis all laughed. And Radha and Krishna had so many pastimes. So we should try to think when we're chanting of what is going on in Vrindavan. And the way we can do this is by reading that 10th canto, especially Prabhupada's commentary. Prabhupada's commentary on the 10th canto. So when we read a little, then we can understand, at least we can read it and we know what's going on. Then we can try to think about it. But if we haven't even read it, we don't even know, then we can't even think about it. And when we read, we should try to understand the mood or the bhav of Mother Yasoda, of Nanda Maharaj, of the cowhead boys. We should try to think. We should try to think. Krishna goes into the cowhead fields. So Mother Yasoda is in total anxiety. Krishna's gone. We should try to think, what is that anxiety? We should try to think, what is that anxiety? Krishna's coming back from the cowherd fields, and Nanda Maharaj sees him in a distance, and he feels so happy. We should try to think, what is that happiness? We should try to meditate on that happiness that Nanda Maharaj is feeling when Krishna is coming. This is actually very high class if we can do this. Of course, we may not be able to do it, so at least theoretically we can try, theoretically. But as we advance, then we'll actually be able to experience to a lesser degree their moods. But we have to practice, and then this will come bit by bit. So anything else? I've got some biscuits in the car if you bring. Or is there some over there? Where? Oh, you got. Open it up. So any other questions? Questions? Bala? You're feeling better now? Good. Nice to see you. So, no other questions then. Huh? Mm. Yeah, because you have some little taste, but it's not deep. Something is there, so you're thinking, but it's not so deep. But when your taste becomes deeper, then you'll only think of one particular type of pastime. It'll be more concentrated. It's like bahu. It's many, many, many. But when you get more advanced and your ruchi increases, taste increases, then you'll be single-minded, and it will be one type of mood or one type of pastime. So there's no harm in what you're doing. It's all right, no harm. But eventually it becomes more single-minded. Anything else? There you are, prasadam.